Hey out there, I'm Rain Phoenix. I am here to share with you that we have a new Patreon page for LaunchLeft. LaunchLeft is a podcast, a label, a launchpad for left-of-center artists. It's an intentional space and an ecosystem to talk about art and activism, to talk about changing the culture and the industry from one of competition to one of kindness and collaboration. And for those of you who've heard the podcast, you know this. We bring on known artists who pick the next great emerging artists and the ones that are a little left of center, the ones that are outside the box, the ones that might not make it to a normal commercial public domain, as it were. And so we're bringing those outside the box thinkers and creators, those who have to create from a space of giving and from a space of passion. And we want to highlight them. So this year in 2020, we launched our label and we released 9 new artists this year, including Alika's Attic. We need your help in continuing to grow our roster and continuing to support our artists through PR and promotion, vinyl production, mastering. There are so many ways that we need some support, and we are hoping that you will join our Patreon page and do this, but not just for the label, also for the podcast, because, hey, what do you think of this idea of us doing like outside acoustic shows? I really like that idea. I mean, I like to play music outside. It's one of my favorite places to be is in nature. So think about that too. It would be super interesting to have shows outside, but guess what that entails? We need equipment, people, manpower. We need to be socially distanced and COVID safe. These are things that require some support. Now, what do you get? Well, check out our Patreon page and you'll find out. I am really excited to share some content that we have shot and kept behind the scenes for this very reason. So become a patron today. Launch new artists on LaunchLeft.
LaunchLeft, podcast. We're just a podcast and we're LaunchLeft.
Hello, welcome to LaunchLeft, an intentional space for art and activism, a podcast, a label, a launchpad for left-of-center artists, where famed creatives launch emerging bands. My name is Rain Phoenix. Our special guest today is LP. You heard me right. LP is on the show, and she's launching Nick Leng. He'll be joining the conversation a bit later. Without further ado, after you rate and subscribe, please welcome LP to the show.
What a cool little room you got.
How's it going?
Okay. What's up?
Reading your bio was like...
Exhausting?
No, it was actually really...
Tedious?
No, I was thinking there were like, you hit so many LaunchLeft markers. I was like, wow, It's just adversity, like left to center trajectory, the way, like everything. I was like,
oh yeah.
Wow.
Well, I could look back on shit now and go like, well, that tacked on an extra 5 years to my my journey. It's wonderful. It's really fun times. In fact, I try to save people that time sometimes, that I know. Without being interfering in their own personal journey and all that shit. But even recently, not too recently, but like I felt that kind of thing happen with a twist and turn. But it was interesting because I was aware of it, and I was in kind of like, I wouldn't call it a power position. I don't really, I think that's kind of fucked up to like think like that, but I didn't really have that same need for like a label at this particular moment in time. And I remember I was just like, I just felt like I chose the wrong partner for something, and then I was like, well, that's gonna, it was in the States, and I was like, whoops, that's gonna leave a mark. I just know these things now, and it's like I'm just like. But you know what? The ultimate, the grand plan is just always worth seeing, because I think that like I do believe in that. I just like believe there's like a whole thing going on in my life anyway. I don't want to project it onto anybody else's life, but I've seen like some beautiful plans kind of just become realities that like I couldn't even see coming. So
Yeah, as you're talking and saying, you can help other artists by shaving off some years of basically different. I see them as like alternate paths you take on your way to where you're supposed to land, right?
And they become perspective, which is invaluable as far as, like I think that, like, one of the biggest things I was grateful for when I got, to where I want to be like, when I got, but when I got to where I wanted to go, I'm like past where I even thought I could go. But when I got to these places, I was like, oh shit, it's so much richer of an experience because my perspective of it and how much I know goes into it and how much I know it could like just not happen by a fucking, hair. And you're like, wow, that's deep shit. It's cool.
Yeah, really cool. How did music find you?
Music was kind of like always there, and I just didn't like. I came from a family that it was just like that was like, might as well buy a fucking lottery ticket, like everybody was like a lawyer or doctor, and it was just like that's the way to go, and it's just like, is it though? You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of fucking sad, angry, douchey doctors around that are just like, nah, I wish I would have fucking done music like I wanted to, you know? So, and I remember going on a Grey's Anatomy tear at one point, like a binge thing. And I was like, then it was when things were like, kind of like, like I was like, in between my second and third major label deal, it was right before I really got like a leg up with writing. And I was just watching fucking Grey's Anatomy going like, man, I fucked up.
My mom is binge watching that show right now. I guess my question is, was that a difficult way to grow up, or do you feel that the adversity of that situation, like, your family and where you grew up was trying to mold you to be a doctor or a lawyer, and instead you were like, what? Music? Do you think that helped push you further?
Oh yeah. And it registered. It just really, really registered in the end of like, that's not the answer. The answer to what you should be doing is inside of you. It's not inside of your parents. It's not inside of your school. It's not inside of your friends. It's inside of you. And that, like most things, and that is, sorry to sound like such a hippie, but I'm dressed like one today and I feel fucking
No,
great.
I agree.
I'm gonna
You're on the
give
right
you advice.
show.
I'm going to read, hold on, I'm reading from the scripture of hippiedom. But yeah, I don't, I think that it's like, it's something you have to face that's in you. And not everybody's from that kind of family. I mean, being a lesbian singer wasn't really in my parents' like, book of like, hey, you know what you should be? Marie, you know what you should be? I think you should be a lesbian singer. What are your feelings? Like, I mean, that's just not something people sit around the dinner table where I'm from and talk about.
Where are you from?
New York. I don't even mean where I'm from, as far as on the map. I mean like, you know, children of immigrants that, come to New York and are like, don't even speak Italian because their parents don't want them to speak Italian because that would be like, set them back on the climb up the ladder to Shitville. Like there's no answers. You know what I mean? And I had to like, there's no answers there.
Did you always know you like girls from like the minute you were conscious?
I did somewhere in there did, but it was, that was another thing that was not really, something that, and it's also, to be honest with you, it was like, it's not very like, I don't know. I just don't like having to talk about what, what I'm sexually wanting with people. It's not like my, it's not something that I think you talk about openly. You know what I'd really love to do? It's like, this is weird. So, I didn't really, know, and I didn't want to like, face it or talk about it. Cause I just, I think it also like later on, it also was like worried me if that was like, oh God, it's like, it's hard enough being a singer songwriter, but like it seems like there's like one slot every 20 years for a fucking lesbian singer. It's like, hey, there she is. Let's tackle her and make her huge and nobody else. But I think, there was just a lot of like things to digest when I was like kind of growing up for me, as far as like what I was going to be, who I was going to be, and I didn't see it really much in many places. So I mean, like I said, here and there, you know, but I don't know, gym class teacher. Hi. Oh, look, that's cool. There's one. But I didn't like, really help.
It does seem that you're very self-possessed always. Is that a right assessment? Like that you knew, that you kind of knew who you were and were going to stand up for that regardless of kickback or?
Kind of quietly, I guess, inside. Yes. I just like, like exude. My game is exude confidence on the outside, freak out on the inside, it's like, so I mean, that was my plan always. My devilish scheme to, yeah, it was like, it's brutal. It still is brutal. I mean, right now I got like, there's some shit hot off the presses in here going, don't stop saying that. It's like, I'm explaining how I used to feel. When you like finally get to like that, even, the smallest, bit of like, of what it is to be, a known person that does music, and then you go through like all the people that have ever done it and all the people that are way ahead of you and like how much work it takes and how much, and how difficult it is and how, it's not, and it might be easier for some people, but I feel like it's still hard no matter what, and that's why so many people get like fucked up, and it's and just making your passion your work is another like kind of I think head trip as far as things go, because it just becomes a thing that like it becomes your job, and then you have to show up to your job and keep like like making progress and all that stuff. It's a tough thing. I think you could easily in a day, like some days talk yourself out of it.
Can I go back to how music found you? And what I meant by that is like what was your first memory of when music like transformed you and you thought, I want to explore this. This is it for me. What was that turning point for you?
I don't know the exact moment, but I just think like it became this thing where I just felt like I said, I wasn't from a family that encouraged that. So, every time I would sing something, people would kind of go like, it's good. And, I'd be like, but it was consistent, and, I remember thinking, maybe like, so can you just do that? Can you just start singing for real? And, yeah, it just came upon me slowly. And, really, I think that, songwriting became like this thing for me where I just felt like it's so, and it still is in a way. I think even some like really, really, kind of like musically erudite kind of composers would even say that, um, it is mystical, the when a song like works, there's like a mystical thing, in my opinion, that comes into the room and makes it a great song on top of craft and theory and shit like that, but I do think it also can be like just like something that I know plenty of songwriters that can't write any music, including myself, as far as notes and all that, and can't read. Um, but I think that it's definitely a magical place that it comes from, and I feel like it's like all creativity and writing, and I think that it's this ability to receive, and I feel like I caught on to that as far as I caught the bug of the songwriting thing, and it took me a while to find my my own unique style and voice of songwriting. But it was definitely worth it, but and a lot of it came um writing for other people. Like in this time, there was this 2 year period, like I was talking about, between the during in between when I was watching Grey's Anatomy. I had to watch Grey's Anatomy, and then I could write songs for the next 8 hours after that. But I but like, so it was like between those record deals and I got a publishing deal, and I thought that was all there was. I was going to be a songwriter for other people. I didn't even know that for people who do know my career, I didn't even know that the Warner Brothers deal and like Into the Wild and all that, and Forever for Now, the record, and Forward from that was coming. I just thought, boom, I'm a songwriter. And in that time, I feel like I really kind of started to understand songwriting more and more, and started to expand my capacity for like genres and stuff. Before that, I feel like I was always trying to sound like what I thought I wanted to, or what they wanted me to. I mean, that's one of the reasons why my first 3 years in the major label system didn't work, is because, I mean, that's when I wrote 140 songs that, like, one got picked up by the Backstreet Boys, blah, blah, blah. But that's when I really focused on songwriting, to the extent where it's just like, I didn't even think about when one was done. I was like, that's it, next. Because it was just what I was,
This is a theory, so you can shoot this down or not. But because, you sort of you pivoted like your idea of who you were as an artist to a songwriter, right? Where you had that moment where you're like, you know what? Maybe this is why I'm here, was to write songs for others. Do you think that like freed up your, channel, like you were saying before, where it's just kind of like we're sent messages and we transmute them, that kind of let you be you as an artist, because you finally took the pressure off yourself? You were like, okay.
Totally. And I took the pressure off myself in so many ways, because it was just like, on the major labels, as the artist, it was always like, well, what's going to be your style? Like, what's going to be her like style of music? What is she going to look like when she goes out there? How are we going to prepare the whole, I mean, I still go through that now, even when I'm like releasing a record, I got to figure out, what the hell the creative direction is going to be and all that shit, and this was like just write songs. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So it doesn't matter, I could roll out of bed, just roll the studio. That's how I started playing ukulele, in fact, because I just thought it was a fun thing to bring to the studio, especially in like kind of like more like kind of like urban sessions that were like, pop, like kind of like dance kind of shit and all that. And I felt like, you'd have this crazy track running, and then when we would get the melody down, and I'd just get the chords and sit in the corner and like work on lyrics with a ukulele, just for fun and just to clear my head from the doom, doom, doom. And but I was working my whole how I was going to do this, and it felt really great for a while. And I have to say, I got lucky that it was just shy of 2 years, and then my own artist career started like going again. But but it was because I think at the end of that, I would have gotten like, I think I needed, I'm very lucky now, because I can like, fucking shed in the writing room and write all these songs. And then I get to like take a break and go out and play them for people. And it really helps. It's a really good turn of my kind of wheel, and I don't have to, feel all bunged up.
Yeah. Speaking of your music and newer music, you just put out a single, The One That You Love, in July, right? With that epic video on horseback. So cool.
But yeah, that video, that's what I'm talking, like creative direction. Like, that's like my guy, Darren Craig. He floated the fucking horse thing, and we were like, that's a great idea. Because we were talking about doing something in the car, because we were trying to figure out something that was simple, that was just like just me in the, in the COVID era. And, but then, when he said the horse, and I was just like, oh, that sounds like a great idea, and I rode when I was a kid. My mom rode a lot, had a horse. And so I was like, I knew what I was doing slightly on one. I hadn't ridden in a while, but it just felt like such a vibe, It was cool.
Horses are amazing, and they are to be respected. I've had a
totally
horrible
They're
horse
majestic.
fall, and at the same time, I've had the most wonderful times ever on horses.
You've fallen off a horse?
Yeah, I had a pretty bad accident. I was training for a movie where I played a cowgirl, and I had to like, yeah.
Oh
and
no!
And it was,
you had to do the whole get right back up, literally thing.
Yeah, I couldn't, because I thought I broke my back. Let's put it that way. It was a gnarly fall. But I did survive it, and I went on to do the film. So I did have to, like you said, get back on the horse, in a sense, eventually.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, my mother got kicked in the face by her horse, but not with the hoof. Thank God.
Oh, thank God.
She got hit with the elbow, kind of like she was walking him to the meadow across the street to ride, and she got fucking this car came by, a Camaro. Fucking Camaro. Anyway, so she got just spooked the horse and she got kicked, and it was pretty brutal. And he was like a gigantic 18-hand fucking thoroughbred horse, and I was and she was like even smaller than I am, which is not that small, which is small. She was like 5'2" or something like that.
I have a question we always ask, which is, what is your form of activism?
Well, I mean, I'm always for LGBTQ rights, and that's always like a thing. I just like my sheer existence feels like I'm, intrinsically wound in that whole thing. But I mean, I feel like my biggest thing is equality, and something for everybody, and being inclusive and not being, I think until everyone's equal, none of us are free at all, and so, I mean, and I've always felt like that. And, I think it's hard sometimes for someone like me to it's hard for me to wrap my head around that people have a problem with the color of your skin or who you fuck or what God you believe in. It's because I just don't, I mean, I may not believe in the same God. I just believe in a ubiquitous God that's out there that loves everybody, and maybe it's old fashioned like that, but I don't believe in organized religion for myself. But I'm very into people practicing whatever makes them, whatever moves them. I don't, as far as actual activism, I feel like, I feel like I'm just kind of like garden variety kind of person like that, and just go to the protests, donate and do all the things. But, I'm always I have my places that I contribute to, and but I kind of keep it I want to be as inclusive as I can, in my climb. And I'm so kind of in a lot of countries, I'm really out there, and I think that we're just always kind of trying to help people get their equality in their own places just through kind of being an example.
Yeah, it's learned behavior to hate or to for these pointless reasons, right? That we've created these sort of ideas of the things that make people sexist and racist, and all the ways that we harm others. I think when we were born and when we grew up and we were little kids, before anyone got to us, we knew that we were all the same.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so that's so beautiful to just say that out loud, because I think that's a big thing to think about.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, I mean, the hardest part is that it's not right to, I would never, I don't think this way. And I would never be like, hey, because I'm a woman, because I'm a lesbian, I know what it's like to be put down. I mean, the hardest thing is that I don't, I do in my sphere, sexism, people being, anti-gay or whatever, but racial equality is our biggest hurdle. And I mean, it will be until it's not there anymore. And it's so much to go back on. I'm not saying this, it's not about other inequalities, but I mean, you live here. We're in the shit right now, and we've been in the shit. We've never been. This country is, I love this country. But it's founded on, a lot of bullshit, a lot of lies, a lot of kind of racist behavior and inequality, and it's just time to unravel it.
100%. And that takes me to how close we are, to the election. But before it even took me there, what I started thinking about was that you're right. We're in it right now, but like you said, we have always been in it. And somehow something that's wonderful is that people have been fighting for racial equality for as long as this has been a country. And it's interestingly enough, it's almost like I'm going to use your trajectory as a metaphor. You made a bunch of records before millions of people knew who you were. Yeah. And then you made a record and suddenly billions of people know who you are. You know what I mean? Like
the trick is not going away. And that's why, we can't and won't settle for this. And I don't know whether to I know I hate him, but sometimes I feel like we should thank someone like Trump for bringing it so bubbling to the surface with it's just unbelievable, and for drawing all the horrible fuckheads out, that can't go back in after this,
I agree.
And it sucks because I'm so mercurial. I could read one article and be like, yes, we're good, we're fine, we're good. And then read another one and be like, how are people voting for this, person? It's just it's wild. And, I think that it's ruining a lot of people's perception of what's right and wrong. In a way, maybe not ruining it, but really testing it, and having to go back in time and seeing, people we even thought were running things properly that were doing things that weren't right. It's equivalent to going back and being hearing all these supposed great things about a founding father and being he owned slaves. It's where do you begin? It's speaking of can we just go back to when Native Americans lived here and just be hey,
can we start over?
You guys run everything, and can we live over here?
Yeah, exactly. I know. Well, and I think that's a really good point is, just the law of cause and effect, irregardless, of anything that we do now, if we're not aware of that first moment where we, raped, pillaged, and murdered the indigenous tribes on this continent, then we'll never get it right. Do you know what I mean? And like you said, we can't give up and we have to fight, but we have to go all the way back too. You know what I mean? Yeah. Starting obviously with Black Lives Matter, because it's inclusive of everything else. And that's what I really love about it is it isn't, I think, a lot of confusion around why is it Black Lives Matter? It's because actually that's the most inclusive of everything else, because that's the thing that's been hidden, in our Western culture.
On us and our souls and what we hope to achieve in this life. I don't know what, it's just it goes down to another thing I'm really passionate about is the environment. It's just what are we how are the people that don't care about these issues and they all have kids and grandkids, where those people go? Where are your relatives going after this if you don't agree on these issues? I mean, Trump, it's different because he's just a psychopath who doesn't care about anyone. He's going to be what's that old movie with Patrick Swayze and Ghost? When the person dies and just those black shadowy figures just come in like the terrible ghouls and they pull him down into hell. That's what's going to happen. I mean, I hope that actually happens when he loses.
I do want to talk about Nick Leng. How did you find that kid?
I found him through my one of my writing partners and my producer, Mike Del Rio, who's an amazing artist himself, has a band called Powers and his own shit. And he signed Nick Leng, and he was always we got to write with Nick Leng. We should write with him. And I was like, yes, let's do it. And so I think the first song we wrote is a song that I think is on my record. I'm not sure. But we just wrote something dope right away. And he's just a muso guy. I mean, the guy's an amazing musician. plays, sings, and all that stuff. And he's just like an artist through and through. And I love his stuff.
Cool. Well, thank you, and let's welcome him to the show, shall we?
Nick. Boop.
Hello.
Are you in South Africa right now?
No, I'm actually quite far from South Africa. I'm in downtown Los Angeles right now. Although I was born in South Africa. That's where I was born. But I got to America when I was 9. But so I was a little one when I got here. But I was homeschooled my whole life and kind of lived in a little bit of a bubble a little bit. So I still have a little bit of the accent, I think, from that and everything.
I know what that's like. Homeschooled your whole life. That was me too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm
Me
a teacher of
too.
it.
I got to be as whoever I was.
Seems like such a good idea.
Yeah. I know.
Well, what's amazing about being homeschooled is that if you are like a kid and you want to pursue a weird interest or something that might be quirky, there's no threats of like being bullied about that. So there's no self-awareness that, oh, this is dumb, or oh, this genre of music is silly, oh, don't listen to this thing, you need to listen to what's cool. And so I found myself going down a lot of just creative rabbit hole interests, and that kind of I'm benefiting from today, where I learned was listening to a lot of peculiar things. But if I went to school, I would have wanted to fit in and be like, oh no, I must listen to this because this is what's cool. Everyone's, so I'm very grateful for being homeschooled, and I'm, I feel the effects of it.
You could kind of tell now. I didn't know you were homeschooled. I went to Montessori school.
What's that?
That's like, I don't freaking know. It's basically just like kind of like a different way of learning. And it's like not as regimented and not as, you kind of do whatever you want. You still have other kids there though.
Yeah.
So other kids are going, ew, that's gross. You're lame.
Teasing and bullying. It doesn't go. It doesn't go.
Yeah, makes you strong.
Yeah. Look how far you've come.
Yeah, right. I know. I mean, it's like, listen, like his way, like you get on stage and you're just all that it is that you already know what people are saying. Like, nice pants. Shit like that. Like you're just like not aware of it. You're just like, fuck it.
Yeah, too much positive reinforcement.
My mom loves
freedom.
my pants, and that's all that matters. The dog loves my pants.
Exactly. So LP was sharing with me a little bit that you guys work together on some songs or write together sometimes, and was gushing just about what a cool artist you are. And I'd actually heard about you from Scary Pool Party. Alejandro Aranda also is a big fan of yours.
Such a sweet guy. I actually met him on the street in LA. I was in I think I was in Los Feliz or something. I was going to a Blue Bottle. Actually, I can't remember exactly where the Blue Bottle was. And this like super sweet kid came up to me. He was like, "Hey man, I love your music and all that." And it was all this, and he was so kind. And it just, that just meant the world to me. And then I think he followed me on Instagram the next day, and then we like talked a little bit, and I saw, his talent, and just he's amazing, and he's really so sweet and so talented, and I was so happy to have magically bumped into him and started that connection.
Yeah. So we're happy to have you on the show because we've heard about you. It's been your name has been whispered a few times on LaunchLeft. Thank you. Yeah. Perfect. I want to go back though, what you just said, where you were a vessel. This is something that LP brought up, and something that I truly believe is probably the most inspired. Whenever I've written a song, it's like, when you're like, I'm a channel, and it just comes through.
Yeah, it's really weird. And when I say it, I kind of feel kind of insecure because I feel like
it's weird.
I feel like I'm saying, oh, I am this thing, but in a way, it's kind of almost the opposite, where it's almost like you're not even the equation. You have to just get out of the way to allow this thing, which is almost already a thing. It's like, I kind of think about it like you're a sculpture working on like a marble piece, and you have to just imagine that the horse is in there and cut away the thing then on the horse.
I mean, that dick's not going to show itself. You got to
show itself.
You got to chisel that dick out.
But the dick is there. You got to believe that the dick is there.
Well, that dick was always there, man. That's
the dick is always
beautiful
there.
Part about it.
Just got to find where it is. Yeah.
And when you get to it, you're like, whew.
Hopefully not that, but
that is the danger of being an artist and mistaking your conduit ability, like just that you happen to be this conduit, you happen to be this channel for your awesomeness, thinking it's you, like you're just this channel that it's coming through. That's when like often I think like success goes wrong. Usually something happens that is a negative for that person, you know, like the ego overtakes the art.
I don't know about the negative part, but like, you know, because I see people that feel like they just keep going with that. But I think just for yourself, it's like, you know, there has to be some kind of grace and some kind of, you know, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky to do it all the time. I think also, I think people probably would recognize what are their gifts as being able to receive, you know, like a chosen person that's able to receive and treat it like that. You know, I'm not saying I do. I just, you know, I mean, being like making yourself ready to receive is, you know, I mean, I'm in that kind of mood today. So, but it's like, you know, it's like the lube, if you will, of the spiritual lube that allows the.
Well, it's intentional, right? It's intentional. That's important. Is intentionality. That's what LaunchLeft is kind of about. Is making a space intentionally where artists help each other.
You know, I think a lot of like young artists like don't like have someone to talk to. It's like, you know, there's no like a guidance counselor for music. You know.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, if you get any like, you know, level of success, you know, I think it's always kind of a nice thing to kind of try to give back and help somebody kind of figure out where the hell they're going, or just, you know, talk and ask questions. You know, like I always wanted to like talk to somebody, you know, like if you could have like, you know, if I could have lunch with like Jeff Buckley or Kurt Cobain, I would be like, so what? You know, what
you and a lot of other people.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah. But I like that what you're sharing, or what I'm hearing, is that you're a mentor artist. You're kind of like, hey, from experience, maybe I can help a younger artist, like skip having to go through stuff that, you know.
It's quite interesting because, you know, someone who's been that for me has been Mike Del Rio, who, you know, works on all of LP stuff. You know, where I met him like almost 5 years ago, and he was someone that was kind of like my older brother creative type of thing. And so I came across all these like natural blocks and self things, and he was kind of able to help me, you know, kind of overcome a lot of them. And he kind of taught me that you should always be mentored by someone, and no matter what level you're at, like be mentoring someone else as well. You know, even if you're a beginner, something, helping someone else. And I think that energy fluidity is so important.
Yeah. I mean, like the spiritual concept is like basically like, you know, help someone else get whatever it is you want. It's like a definite, like I wouldn't say a tool, but it definitely helps to kind of put things in place.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's
cool.
Beautiful. Thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, I'm LP, and the artist I'd like to launch is Nick Leng.
Okay, this is a new song called "Walking Home to You," and it's on my album Lemons, and I hope you like it. It's a very special song to me.
Do you wake up in anger when we meet up in dreams? 'Cause I know that different hands can please the pain and feel the same as me. We've gone a different way now. I'm in your New York, written lights down different tunnels, but I don't care anymore. But I'll miss walking home to you, oh, I'll miss walking home to you, no, not feel for the rain when the sky walking home to you. And if you proceed with caution, when you run out and lock the door to rooms that only we know, to secret words and ways we were before, 'cause I'm in pursuit of danger, for missing parts of me, and I had to burn the house down so I could find the sea that I'll miss walking home to you, to you. Oh, oh, I'll miss walking home to you, to you. Oh, and I feel for the rain when the sky's feeling blue. Oh, oh, I'll miss walking home to you. We've gone a different way now. I'm medley in your New York. Lights down different tunnels, but I don't care anymore, 'cause I miss walking home to you, to you. Oh, oh, I miss walking home to you.
The song's called Lonely Shade of Blue. It's my last song. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. Thank you so much, Living Room, for having me.
She's like the lonely shade of blue, counting down the hours till the bell rings after school. So she wrote that night, don't fall in love with her. She said, don't fall in love, don't fall in love. Timing of questions on his mind, tore their world apart. Now the riddles keep him up. So he wrote that night, don't fall in love with him. He said, don't fall in love, don't fall in love. I said, don't you wanna disappear? Would you do it again? Or would you take me back? She's like the mystery on set, chasing every rose with a daydream in her hand, still holding on. Don't fall in love with her, she said. Don't fall in love, don't fall in love. I said, don't you wanna disappear? Would you dip it again? Or would you take me back? I said, don't you, baby, won't you? Baby, don't you? I said, don't you, baby, won't you? Baby, don't you? To live it again. She's like a lonely shade of blue, counting down the hours till the bell rings after school. So she wrote that night, don't fall in love with her. She said, don't fall in love. Don't fall in love. Thank you so much.
LaunchLeft aims to create an intentional space that highlights and empowers all artists for whom radical creativity is not a choice, but a necessity. LaunchLeft begins with music, but its ultimate aim is to launch left-of-center artists in all creative fields.